Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this crucial week ahead of the February recess, Johnson's opponents within the Conservative Party are making a final push to trigger their confidence vote, and his supporters are pulling every trick in the book to getting him through until the end of the week with a, well, frankly, bizarre series of appeals that just don't stand up to scrutiny. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So in the spirit of will they, won't they, when it comes to getting rid of Johnson, I've talked about how Sunak desperately needs Johnson to sink sooner rather than later. But in this video, I'm going to talk about how Johnson will likely aim to survive beyond this week. And if he does survive beyond this week, he has a very good chance of carrying on until the summer at least. So this really is it for Boris Johnson. And remember, despite how reports may make it seem, sometimes you read reports, it makes it sound like they're very close to the number being triggered for the confidence vote. Sometimes it makes it sound like it's very far away and the chances are diminishing. We don't know. We do not know how many letters there are at all, because it's a matter known only to Sir Graham Brady, and he doesn't say. So if he can survive this week without the spectacular own goals that he's been bashing in over the past few weeks, he should really be clear until the summer. Indeed, as I've said before, there are a lot of advantages for even those who know that Johnson needs to go before the election to keep him in place until May at least. Let him take the full hit from the local elections. Yes, if they get rid of Boris Johnson sooner, the hit would not be as great. So actually they'd retain more council seats. So it sounds a bit mad, but they're still likely to be making losses, and they don't really want to get a new leader in who immediately suffers losses. Also, I'm sure a lot of Tory MPs would rather the Grey Report be published in full before risking a change of leader. The problem is the serious damage being done to the reputation of Conservative MPs by standing by Johnson. There are a lot of MPs who are denouncing his behaviour to their constituents in order to keep them on side. But they're still not doing anything about removing him, because here's the thing. There are way more Tory MPs calling out Johnson's behaviour than are needed to trigger the confidence vote. And yet we know not all of them have submitted those letters. But we don't know which ones haven't unless they've said they haven't. Though the anonymous nature of it, which is right, but the anonymous nature of it allows their constituents to give them the benefit of the doubt, perhaps. You know, that they'll say that they need to wait for the Grey Report. They wouldn't dream of determining someone's guilt until the full case has been made against them, which is another act of hypocrisy, because MPs are always quick to ascribe guilt all the time, before a trial has even begun. Case in point, the Colston 4. But the thing about gaslighting is that it's obvious to everyone but the victims. So it may well work. Certainly they're going to be hoping it does. As long as they act once the Grey Report is published, I'm sure this will be their line. There may be even some MPs who hope that Johnson can arrange for the report to never come out, or at least not for some considerable time, just like with the Russia report. But they need to get through this week first. So how does Johnson and his supporters aim to do that? I think the first step is being clear to the Prime Minister that he has to stop pulling stupid stunts like last week. I've been seeing more and more reports of what went on behind the scenes in recent days. So by all accounts, what happened was Johnson was he came up with this idea of using the Savile slur against Starmer. Johnson was advised strongly not to use it. His advisor said, do not do that. I mean, even I could have told him it would bite him on the arse. Another example of how Johnson does not, despite his mythos, have his finger on the pulse of popular opinion. He hasn't got a clue. He's an idiot who occasionally listens to wiser con artists. On this occasion, he ignored them. He was apparently upset that they weren't raking up any mud that he could sling at Starmer, so he came up with his own. This is the thing. There isn't really any, is there? Starmer has obvious downsides in that he doesn't come across as having that electric personality that will appeal to the masses, the millions who will never meet him. That long-distance charisma, doesn't have it. But there are some qualities, including the fact he just doesn't seem to have any skeletons in his closet. The right-wing assassins in the media and the Conservative Party have been trying for the best part of 2 years now. The best they've ever been able to come up with is that he knows Jeremy Corbyn. Great. For someone like Johnson, who has neither the skill nor the ammunition to win a grown-up debate, the lack of mud to sling is a major problem and was apparently the source of the frustration last week that caused him to score what anyone else would have seen, and indeed his own advisors told him would be an obvious own goal. And speaking of grown-ups, This is the line being used by Johnson's supporters to convince the doubters to hold on a little longer. They are arguing that Johnson's change to his top team means that the grown-ups are now in charge. To which I could point out a few curious issues. The first of which immediately is, hang on, you're saying in charge. Isn't the Prime Minister in charge? What's going on there then? But in terms of more general issues, why weren't the grown-ups in charge before then? So according to his supporters, Johnson hasn't just changed his top team. He's brought in what they're calling grown-ups. That strongly suggests that the people he had in before were not grown-ups, not suitable at all. So why were they ever in place, much less for as long as they were? Wouldn't an intelligent doubter take such a statement not to be a, oh, he's moving on now, but to be condescending? Also, this suggestion that the grown-ups are in charge is somewhat undermined by continuing to use Nadine Dorries prominently. Not only was she as pissed as a fart when trying to defend Johnson to a journalist in the Westminster lobby last week, she'd clearly had a few on her breakfast time interview on Saturday. Then to top it off, she's visited Saudi Arabia to discuss cultural ties and immediately insulted Saudi culture by not wearing a headscarf. The second thing is that at least a couple of his new choices are controversial. Certainly as controversial as his previous team. First of all, he's chosen Stephen Barclay to be Chief of Staff. A few issues here. Prominently, Barclay is an MP. Solid enough one in many ways, but it's not possible to do both jobs at once. There's no indication that he'll be resigning as an MP, so that means one of two things. Either he stops doing his constituency work as an MP, in which case the people who voted for him have basically lost their MP without being able to get a replacement. They can send whatever emails they like, nothing's going to get done. Or he won't be doing the job of Chief of Staff properly. Perhaps he'll be a front man to make it seem that it's well run while someone else does the main day-to-day tasks. What is clear is he cannot do both jobs. So one has to fall by the wayside. Second, another pick is the journalist Gut O'Hara. Now, he's worked with Johnson before, but he's a Remainer. Given that the Brexiteers in charge of the government are on a mission to ensure that only committed Brexit supporters ever get any senior public role in their drive to politicise everything on their intended path to a fascist dictatorship, seems to me incredible that they would accept someone who is strongly against Brexit advising the Prime Minister. A few key Brexiteers have actually said they approve of the appointment, but that's mostly because they at least know he can do his job. But there's going to be clashes at some point, surely in the future, if this was a long-term thing, because they will, whenever there seems to be something they don't agree with, they'll blame the Remainer in Boris Johnson's ear. Another curious quirk, in terms of whether this is for the long term, is that Harry already has a job, which is not technically left. He's taken a 6-month sabbatical, I saw, to work for Johnson again. That is not an indication that he expects the job to last, is it? The third issue is that any hopes that if Johnson can just ride this out with the latest scandals, he can pick up the poll ratings before the election, which could be as late as 2024, because that's the hope. I'll just get past these scandals, get past it all, survive, and then back on the up. Completely obliterated by the fact Dominic Cummings has promised to keep leaking damaging information about Johnson during his time at Number 10. And in terms of those who feel hard done by, Johnson's wife is also in a tizzy. Carrie Johnson has complained via a statement from her spokesperson that she is a private person and has no dealings with government business. To which I would have a few questions. First of all, what sort of private person issues a statement to this effect through their spokesperson? If she has no involvement in government business, what was she doing talking to the Prime Minister and his most senior political advisor during what was claimed to be a work meeting in the Downing Street garden in May 2020? And if she has no involvement in government business, why is she complaining about the relocation of someone close to her from a government position in Downing Street? Also, she has no government links or anything like that. How did she have the authority to not just be in the Cabinet Office, but to clear the Cabinet Office and set it up for a birthday party for Boris Johnson's birthday in 2020? Actually, when I think about it, there are loads of questions. I'm just going to conclude she's probably lying. But the point is, she's cheesed off. And a pissed off wife will only add pressure onto Johnson to consider whether he really wants to be Prime Minister anyway when he's getting it in the neck all the time. But if Johnson can maintain some sort of discipline this week, if his handlers can keep a tight rein of him, against his baser instincts and not drop any more bollocks, then he should be able to make it to the weekend. After that, Parliament is on recess. So the intrigue goes away. MPs won't be meeting face to face to discuss tactics of how to get rid of him anymore. He won't be facing so many awkward questions, and the momentum will drain away. After the recess, Putin might even do him a solid and invade Ukraine. Probably a double-edged sword for Johnson supporters, really, because on the one hand, it will rally support against an external threat, but on the other hand, his MPs must know that it will only be a matter of time before it emerges that Putin invaded because of something crass and stupid Johnson said when trying to make a joke. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.